Hi guys, so today I'm finally going to do the Q&A video about studying literature. It's gonna be a probably long video, so I shall get started now. What interests me the most about literature? The one thing that interests me the most about literature is probably just how beautiful that is. I personally love art, but literature for me is like the most beautiful thing ever. You know what I like about it is that it kind of occupies space and time in all possible ways like nothing else can. First of all, it travels through time. Also a material object that, you're basically traveling through time when reading it, through the actual time that your body and your being is experiencing, but also time that is experienced in the book. You're experiencing this story in this day and age, but also you have to make a mental effort to go back in time in order to really understand it. The book is traveling with you. Actual object may have, been in other places obviously as well before and inside of the book. It's just like the autonomy of the book that really fascinates me, of the actual object and also of the story. It's fascinating to me to see how you put words on a piece of paper and it means something for you. You read it afterwards, it means a billion other things. I think it's only because of interpretation. I think it's because words do have their own life. It just suddenly kind of becomes alive and you realize things about yourself that you quite didn't know before. For me, it's magical. But then I got so many questions about my favorite writer, my favorite era, my favorite movement and genre. My favorite writer would have to be, it depends on what kind of criteria we are basing this appreciation. Like, if that's only about books, I really like Flaubert. I really like Stendhal as well. And Aragon probably. If we're talking about like a writer as in the creation and the artist and also the whole thing around it, I would have to say I really like Baudelaire and Breton, maybe. My favorite era, I don't really have one. I find things that I like in most eras, but the 19th century, I don't know. Maybe the 19th century or the 18th. It's really hard. The 18th, 19th and the 20th century are really interesting. So for the movement, I really like surrealism. It's probably my favorite movement. Even though I don't agree with everything that's been said and that happened during surrealism, I quite appreciate symbolism, but from an aesthetic point of view. I think this movement is interesting but has very obvious limits. I like romanticism. I like romanticism. I like romanticism, obviously. What am I kidding? My favorite genre would be... Oh, that's difficult. I like everything. I don't think I have one. So many people asked me if I was only studying French literature or if I was also studying other literature and comparative literature. The emphasis is put on French literature. However, we do study other literatures. For example, we study a lot of English literature, a lot of German literature, a lot of Russian. I studied Japanese literature, I studied Hungarian literature, and I also studied some African literature, even though I don't remember which country it was. I'm sorry for that, really. We have some classes which are comparative literature. However, they're not mandatory. You can choose them, which I always do because it's probably one of my favorite classes. I think it's quite normal that we focus on French literature because we're French, and that makes sense because we're studying French literature. Me, I'm really happy about that because French literature is my favorite one, but I wish we could study more about the other literatures. So then I got a question which was in French, but briefly I'm going to summarize it. It was about how is it exactly to study literature? Are we studying according to canons and basically in a general and almost scientific way, just having to analyze things, or is it a bit more personal? It depends on which university you go to. My university is really open and I like that. Like, they're very interesting because they connect literature with other disciplines. They encourage you to offer a personal analysis and study of whatever you're studying. Obviously you have to know the canons, obviously you have to know about the everything that makes a book, like the style and the history of literature, the theories of literature, that kind of stuff. That's really interesting anyway, but I I've always, been able to really put my personal touch, I guess, to my essays and everything, and it's never been detrimental to me. So the next questions are a bit more practical. We have 2 read lists. Yes, we do. We have 2 read lists which are really mandatory, and we have 2 read lists which are not compulsory. You just, if you want to, can read them. So what about essays? Are they long? How do you proceed and stuff? So French is a bit special because we have something that's called la dissertation and also le commentaire composé. Basically, it's very structured, and some people don't like it. I personally like it. I mean, I think like free essay in the sense of, being more free when it comes to how it looks and how it's organized and structured are really great as well. But I think a structured, like in French tradition, essay is also very interesting. It enables you to organize your thoughts much more. I find it fascinating to find that most books and most subjects and most texts do fit with this free. So free and free. So yeah, for me it's interesting. When we have things to do at home, it can be long. Sometimes, most of the time, I think it's about like 6 to 15 pages. So I feel like we have enough time with teachers and tutors and stuff like that. For me, yes, because I don't really need, I think, any extra time. And teachers are always very reachable, very nice. If you need some explanations or something like that, you can message them, you can talk to them after school, after the class. You can even have appointments with them. So for me, yes, I'm pretty satisfied. I think it's okay. So what's the most boring and difficult part about studying literature? For me, there is none. The most difficult part would be to realize how ignorant I am. Like when I hear teachers, I'm like, oh my god, I didn't know about that. I didn't know about this either. Oh, I haven't read that book. I didn't know this author, blah, blah, blah. Just to realize that I should have read much more by now and that I should know much more by now. Yeah, someone asked me about the qualities and experiences that would be beneficial to studying literature aside from the very formal and obvious things such as having read a lot, knowing about the history and the style and stuff like that. I don't think you need to have experienced many things in life in order to understand literature. Maybe to write, and I'm not even sure. I think you have to work on being intelligent in the very strict sense of ligere, the Latin word, which is basically to link things. Like if you read something, you have to be able to link it to a few pages before, or maybe a few books earlier that year, or maybe to something you've heard in another class. Realize everything is connected and everything can, benefit from something else. Next question is a bit difficult in a way. Where and how do philosophy and literature intersect in your opinion? So obviously there are the obvious examples of authors where philosophers in a way, first of all, they intersect in that they are the product or the expression or the cause of love in a way or another. I don't think they think of the world in the same way. I don't think they see the world in the same way, but they can meet because I think they both want to offer something to the world. They intersect in many different aspects and points, I believe. Like they obviously are an exchange with something or someone, most of the time a noun and anonymous. They are a product of love or an expression of love or a cause of love. They are probably a gift to, once again, something or someone. They're also a gift made to the author himself or herself. They're a way to improve, always a way to improve or evolve. I think the beauty and art components are much more obviously present in literature. I think literature is more personal. I think that's all. So if you have any more questions about that, feel free to ask me. Oh no, there was another one. So do I see myself in education long term, and do I think of maybe doing a PhD? Yes, hopefully. So thank you for your question, guys. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Let me know if you have any more questions related to literature, and let me know what you think about all those questions as well. And I'll see you later. Bye.